Hi everybody, thanks so much for joining us live again on TOC. I'm Sean Francis with the TOC, and today we have with us a very special guest, Lawrence Pek from the PSP. Now, before we jump into the interview, I do want to ask all of you to go and leave your comments and questions over on the comment section. We will have some time at the end of the program to be asking Lawrence some of your questions. Also, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you're tuning in on YouTube and you haven't yet rung that bell, do ring the bell to stay notified whenever we post new videos. All right, so let's jump right into it. Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Sean.
Hi. So let's just jump right into it, right? Lawrence, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? You're a family man, you've worked all around the world. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, most notable about myself, I guess, is that, with Sony Electronics, I was sent all over the world, I started with them here in Singapore, but very quickly they posted me out to Dubai, the Middle East, and that was a good 4 years. Both my kids were born in Dubai.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and after that, they asked me to go over to Shanghai. There were some issues there, and they asked me to go. So that's that. Mm-hmm. So that's another 4 years gone. And after that, then it was Hong Kong, and of which, while I was still out in Hong Kong, they asked me to go to India. So I lived in India for a year as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so very
during my time in Hong Kong,
international career that you've got there. So what have you learned, I guess, from this very international career that you have? What are some insights that you're bringing to the table?
Extremely important. I mean, there's no professional course to go about it. Largely speaking, I was placed all over the world. They send me, parachute me, if you will, into situations, places whereby things have gone really bad, either with... Usually it's about, because Sony, we sell products and all that, then it's always about distribution channels, the relationships over there. We need to realign relationships in that particular market. Yeah, so those were largely my job. But towards the end, the Hong Kong one, that was a management role. Yep. So for 3 years, I was head of area strategy. So I think a lot of people would ask, what is area strategy? It is possibly the most difficult job, which is to be part of a decision-making process in which we decide who should run what country, and also determine their management structure, their cost structure, as well as the scope of that particular organization. So it was very heavy in itself. It's extremely heavy responsibility. Notably, one of the most difficult arguments that I have with finance at that time, and it was always a very difficult fight, was that my phone bill will be in the 5 figures every single month for almost two over years. I mean, but Hong Kong dollars, yeah. So I was always questioned by finance why my phone bill is always that high. Yeah.
Well, one of the most notable parts of your career, I think, is when you returned to Singapore, you took up the position of Secretary General at the Singapore Manufacturing Federation.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your time there, your role, what kind of work you did?
So I was known as the COVID SecGen at that time. I'm the COVID guy.
Yeah.
So prior to me was member of parliaments, brigadier generals, and all that. And when COVID hit the SMF, I was asked to look at that role, and okay, I mean, I'm a bit not of the same mold, I would say, at that time. And then and I asked if they were sure. They said okay, then okay. So I started on that journey with the SMF for almost 3 years. Yeah, so that was up till mid 23 at that time. So that was a good I guess, for myself as well as our members, and also for the staff of the SMF. I think that there was a transition. I think that COVID provided a space in which certain issues which were not prominent became quite surfaced. Yeah, so that happened. Okay. So I had to lead that transition. The government was doing a huge drive into digitalization and automation. So I had to put it in plain speak for our members, the benefits of doing that. The government has a lot of grants, have a lot of support, and I have to be able to promote those grants and support and explain the why and not just the what to our members and all that. So that was essentially part of that relationship. And halfway through, I was able to, through my interaction with the other members of the manufacturing sector, as well as talking with, because at the SMF we need to have a relationship with the diplomatic corps within Singapore as well. So throughout my conversations with the ambassadors, the high commissioners and all that, I felt that the next wave of manufacturing was going to be sustainability. And yes, it was. And sustainability became an extremely large a wave that came along, a keyword. Yeah, it was such a keyword that even Enterprise Singapore themselves had to be renamed because we all know Enterprise Singapore as ESG, a agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. However, when sustainability came along, then they had to rename themselves because ESG globally was known for sustainability. So they had to rename themselves as Enterprise Singapore. So hence, it was such a big wave that sustainability was at that time. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now, how impactful, I think, was your time at the SMF in convincing you to join politics? Because you're making the shift from industry into the political fray. So what was it that I think got you into politics? I know also that there's a serendipitous encounter that you had with Leong Man Wai. So maybe can you tell us some of the different motivations that pushed you into politics?
I think, no, it would not be accurate to say that it was because of SMF that I jumped into politics as such. No. That would be not right to put it that way. However, I met the Man Wai in a strange series of events.
Okay. Can you tell us more about these strange events?
We were queuing up for food at a coffee shop.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, I recognized him and I spoke to him, chit-chat, and we exchanged numbers, and he found out my background and was quick to then look me up again and again, and we had a couple of conversations. We found out that we actually live around the same area.
Oh.
We don't live very far from each other. Hence, we met up, and then later he asked me to meet up with Dr. Tan Cheng Bok, and that was when the proposition of joining the PSP, the Progress Singapore Party, became a much more serious conversation. Obviously, the conversation would involve what can I bring to the table. I don't want to just come to the table for no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
So value is very important to me. I see value as such. So we had a series of deep. Parts of it was a bit difficult, I guess, those conversations. And then that's when I brought my daughter and her friend. They wanted to meet up with Dr. Tan.
Oh, okay.
And I brought them, and then we had fun that afternoon at Doc's house. Yeah, Doc then introduced his entire background to the two young ladies, and they were very, very impressed. With Doc.
Why the PSP and not any of the other opposition parties? Why not the ruling party, for that matter? And what is it about, these conversations with Tan Cheng Bok or with Leong Man Wai that really convinced you that PSP was the party you wanted to align yourself with?
Well, I guess, Sean, I think that if I were to do this, then it will be more valuable. It will be of more value.
Yep.
If I were doing it from the other side, and not from the ruling party side.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that there will be diminishing returns if I had been doing it from the ruling party side.
Yeah.
And the second thing, I guess, would be that I had a very difficult conversation with my daughter as well.
Yes, yeah.
And I did ask her if I were to do this, there could be changes.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were okay with those changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she said, yeah. She said she's okay with it. She understands the potential repercussions, consequences, and being in a place like Singapore, Singapore's political landscape, who really wants to vote, put up the hand and say, let's join the opposition. So that's not the de facto go-to place. Yeah. Mm. So I think that, but she was very supportive. Mm. Yeah. She said, yeah, Dad, let's. I remember she said that. Yeah, Dad, let's do this. Mm. Yeah.
So it seems like your family is very near and dear to you, right? I mean, how have they perhaps influenced your desire to go into politics, right? And maybe how are they dealing with your foray into the political scene?
To answer the last one first, after the last rally speech, they were very pumped up about it. Mm-hmm. And then they were telling me that you should have, you should not have, you should have, you should not have. So I think that was quite, so they were all very excited about it. Mm-hmm. The short version of how they've been supportive. Yeah. Extremely supportive.
That's great.
Yeah. Very, very supportive. Mm-hmm. At no point in time did they say that, maybe this was the wrong thing to do. No, not at all. Never. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was always about how we could have done it differently or better that way. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
So one comment that you've made also is that it was your son's concerns about housing affordability, right, which shaped your interest, in trying to change Singapore's public housing system, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly were your son's worries and concerns, and how do you think that we might begin to address this?
So like any, dinner table conversation, yeah. I ask him, so are you dating? Are you seeing anybody?
Okay.
Come on, what's up with you?
It's a very direct question.
I mean, 26. I was like asking him that, and he said, Dad, no way. I can't afford to buy a house. Are you crazy? Then I was like, huh? Really? Is it? So I was a bit taken aback. And we are financially comfortable, and therefore I didn't think that he would have such a concern. So I guess it's a good problem. He wants to take on the responsibility of buying, of purchasing, owning his own public housing, and he's looking extremely forward to have his first BTO and all that. He has read up the terms and conditions and all that. What's not a good thing is that he doesn't want to start dating. He doesn't want to. Sean, he doesn't want to. And it's really because of this housing thing. It's strange. It's not where I came from. Yeah. During my time, no, of course not. We talk about love and dating and holding hands and that sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah. But no, for him it was like, I can't afford to date because I can't afford to BTO, not with his current level of compensation. Yeah. So I was shocked by that piece of conversation, and even though it was dinner table conversation, but he was quite serious about it. Yeah. We had very difficult conversation about that as well. Yeah.
I mean, that's great. What do you think the PSP is going to do to rectify this situation? What are the policies that you've put in place or that you've proposed, right, to try and combat this housing issue?
Okay, here's the thing. Much like the Workers' Party or any of the opposition parties and all that, our role is to be heard.
Yes.
And to make justifications to those assertions that we will want to make. So the PSP has a comprehensive affordable housing scheme, the AHS, and that has been brought up repeatedly in Parliament by both NCMP. Of course, it has been well recorded and all that. So the necessity of whether to bring in the land costs at the beginning of the pricing is key at that point. Yeah, obviously the government side, the PAP side has ruled that out, saying that that is not the right way to get things done. There's a direct impact to our reserves if we do not take into consideration our land costs, that sort of thing. So there we go. I think that these are good conversations. These are important conversations to have. I view that the pushback against each other to be more important than even the specifics of the proposal itself. There were no name callings, and there was a real contestation. Ministers stood up to rebut, refute, and that contestation goes on. And I think that's great. I think that is what Parliament should be about. And Sean, that's one of the things which I got excited about. I think that due to my work at the Federation, I think that I have important insight into what are the current government trade and manpower policies. And therefore, in a similar fashion, I hope that I will be able to bring up other ideas, different ideas, things which the government has not want to implement.
So while we're on the topic of contestation, right, you've been in a pretty heated, contentious back and forth over the issue of universal minimum wage, right? So the PSP is proposing a universal minimum wage of $2,250. And of course, Jeffrey Xiao has hit back with his own concerns, right? But before we get into Jeffrey's counter argument, right, can you lay out, I suppose, the rationale and the fundamentals of the universal minimum wage that the PSP is proposing?
Well, first and foremost, I know Jeffrey. He came in halfway through my time at the Federation, headed up the Enterprise Singapore side as managing director, even though, at a very young age of mid-40s at the time. And good guy, great guy, one of the top guys that our civil service has been able to produce. I have great respect for him, and even greater respect when I met him at the nomination center that day. And I told him that I was extremely proud of him, that he was willing to lay it on the line, I guess. I guess not every top civil servant will be willing to do that, even if approached. So Jeffrey took it upon himself, and much has to be said about that. With regards to the minimum wage, his comments coming back, well, I wouldn't say hit back at me, but I think that he questioned my rationale of the minimum wage and all that. A couple of things were there in the Straits Times report. First and foremost, I would like to agree with two things that Jeffrey has said. Number one is that if you set the minimum wage too low, no point. It won't work. Then it's just, what for? I totally agree with him. And when he said that, I believe that he said it in a academic, technical manner, saying that if you set it too low, it would be, useless.
A political declaration, so to speak.
On the contrary, it is a technical declaration. And therefore, I would say the one thing which I disagree with him is that no one is going to use the universal minimum wage as a political tool, as he suggested. No, it is an economic tool.
So that brings us
however, I can then understand, although that's exactly not what I'm doing, and which is using, some people might in other countries use that economic tool as a political tool.
Yes.
But not us, not here, not now. We don't do this. We don't do such a thing here. I co-wrote an article with Leon Pereira on the minimum wage, published by Sudhir Jom. And it was read and vetted through by Mr. Yolam Kyong, our ex-GIC chief economist. He was excited about the article. He called me. I was driving, he called me. And he said that he was excited to read the outlines and afterwards the entire article, which was academic. in nature. We paid for research, we make assertions, and those research bears it out. And therefore, I would like to direct the government, not just Jeffrey, I mean the government side, to look at that article closely. We are serious men, Sean. When it comes to the universal minimum wage, we treat it seriously. It is an economic matter. We see it as an economic lever, a tool, and no one's out to politicize it, not at all.
So let's look at Jeffrey Seo's other comments, right? The second part of his comment, which is that if the minimum wage was set too high, right, then what it would do is it would push wages from the bottom up, and it would be businesses that would have to bear this additional cost. So what do you think about that second half of his criticism?
I think that a very clear study, the two key the universal minimum wage is a complex structural policy matters that is implemented differently country by country. But yes, many countries for the longest time have succeeded in implementing the universal minimum wage in their countries without sacrificing creativity and innovation. I think that the level of which that amount should be needs to be studied clearly. PSP is proposing a 2250 as a minimum wage, minimum living wage here within our manifesto. We welcome the government to have a feasibility study to say whether that makes sense or not. But right as of today, as of now, the government is still, I felt, quite reticent to looking at even the feasibility of the universal minimum wage at this point in time. When we are ways off from looking at a number. Yeah, we are still at the why should we stage.
Okay. So let's talk about the SME support that the PSP is proposing, right? So drawing from your experience with the SMF, right, what measures would you advocate for, does the PSP advocate for, to bolster SMEs? Right? Singapore, I think famously, is a country that has an economy largely driven by MNCs, big multinational companies, right? And SMCs, I think the complaint has been that they get left behind, right? What would the PSP, what would you do to take care of SMEs?
I think one of the key thing that we want to go into is to be able to somehow using government policies and measures to take care of commercial rental space, rental prices and all that. If you run an organization, if you run a company, if you start a company and you want to do something, you have a dream, you have a product, you have a service and all that, you will be laden immediately in Singapore with two costs, labor and rent. Just these two alone will be a immediate issue. Just this, that's just, you won't be very far away. Labor costs or the cost of talent can be variable. Usually is variable. It's variable. You run the business, you choose who you want to hire, how much you want to pay the person, whether is it by the project, by the gig, by the hour, by the month. Up to you. These are variable costs that you are able to control, manage. You can't do that with rent. Whether you turn on the lights or you do not turn on the light, you pay the rent. So I think that is something which the government can do a lot more in terms of helping them out. At the Manufacturing Federation, we have an extremely great relationship with the heads of the JTC, for example. And JTC, Jurong Town Corporation, as you know, is a huge landlord for most manufacturing SMEs. May they be food and beverage, or other areas and all that. So we've always had that good relationship. We've always had that good conversation with them. And yes, it's true. A lot of our members at the time at the manufacturing side, we speak on their behalf. We try our best to represent their interests. To once again to the Ministry of Trade, to the Ministry of Manpower, and therefore we are very close with organizations like Enterprise Singapore as well as JTC. Very good Yeah. So rent is something which, commercial rent is something which I believe the government can do a lot more to support SMEs in that sense. Yeah.
All right. So I want to shift a little bit, right, and now talk about your advocacy or your interest in special needs care, right? You know, you've talked about your personal experiences with your family as inspiring you to highlight the importance of support for children with developmental delays. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What's the story sort of with your family, and what is it that you or the PSP would like to see changed in the way that Singapore deals with or takes care of its citizens with special needs?
Okay. All right. So maybe just a little thing about myself first. My son was first born, and then he wasn't able to speak until very much later. In fact, I think he started to speak only when his younger sister started to talk as well. So the both of them started talking. So you can imagine how late that was.
And the younger sister would be like a year?
No, actually 2.5 years apart.
So that's
3 years apart, I think. Yeah, close to 3 years apart.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so he was late. He was really late in speaking and all that. So we were all very kanchong. We were very worried about, where is all this going? What is it about? And hence special needs and all that. So I think that there needs to be a space for us to be able to take care of our children who has unique, special needs and all that. I'd like to take a little bit time to thank our Prime Minister, as he was when he was first, Lawrence Wong, when he was first doing his first budget as our Finance Minister. For the first time, he put a budget for mental wellness into our fiscal budget in there. He recognizes, in his budget speech, he recognizes that is a new need that requires the country to put in a budget in for that. And I think that is good leadership. I think that is good that he's able to put that in and all that. Now, coming back to the PSP. The PSP has in its manifesto that the government could look into making PSLE optional for parents who want it that way. Not every parent wants to have their kids go through PSLE. Some do. There are parents who I want my kid to take the PSLE. I want to peg my kid among the best, with the best, and and all that. But that's not for every parent. Not every parent wants to do that. So I think that making it optional for the PSLE would be a good starting point, and that's part of the PSP manifesto.
Okay, that's incredible.
Yep.
Well, so it seems like we've covered quite a few policy issues, right? Housing, special needs, SME support. What about the environment, right? Is that something that the PSP, I think, is interested in working on? Are there policy proposals on the environment?
The area of environment falls under the purview, I think, with the Minister Grace Fu right now. Under the Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment. I think that a lot is being done to curate Singapore as the hub for sustainability and sustainability efforts throughout and all that. And I think that a lot of that is still forming, shaping, but definitely I think that our government would like to play a global role and not just a local role. Singapore is small. All right. When we talk about the environment, environmental impact and all that, our impact globally speaking would not be that significant. However, when it comes to sustainability technologies that impact sustainability and all that, and our effort to be carbon neutral by 2030, it's a done deal. I'm very, very confident that our government will be able to champion us through to that carbon neutrality. Above and beyond, I think that they are trying to come up with templates, models, of which then we are able to work with other countries, that other countries are able to adopt Singapore's model towards sustainability.
So how have you been connecting with constituents in Chua Chu Kang GRC? Right?
Oh.
And also, I'm interested, what are some of the key concerns that you're hearing on the ground?
Yes, I immediately, one of the key concerns, just this morning alone when I was engaging or doing our morning sessions and all that, I had to pacify quite a few number of residents that they were very sad. They're not angry. They come across angry, but I think they're a bit sad that DPM Gan, Min Gan, is no longer with them, and that they have deep relationship feelings. I think that DPM Gan has done a lot for Chua Chu Kang, for the residents there. The constituency of Chua Chu Kang, not the whole GRC itself. Yeah. And they are sad to see him go and all that. Yeah. And I think that the Minister Tan See Leng is right to say when he did his doorstop at the nomination center that he has big shoes to fill. Yeah. Min Tan would have a big shoes to fill. But as a PSP, we want to also show to the residents, and we have conversations with the residents that, if they give us their vote and they try us out and all that, all right, in effect, they would still not be losing the PAP grassroots advisors and all that. It's literally you're buying one and then you're getting another free. So, it's the best of both worlds. Yeah. So we sit, and we are in the process of trying to convince them that, hey, that's why you should give us your vote. Try us.
So speaking of Tan See Leng, did his surprise move over to Chua Chu Kang, catch you off guard? Did it change your strategy?
Sean, I think he caught the whole country off guard. I'm not sure how much time he had to react.
Yeah.
I don't know that story, but
how did that affect the PSP strategy?
At the nomination center, when he walked in, he saw me, I saw him, and we were like, oh, okay. So that happened. But I know Min Tan quite well. I think he's adaptive, he's solid, he's a good minister, he's done good job at the Ministry of Manpower. Originally, when he was first assisting Minister Josephine Teo at that time when I was at the Federation and all that. Yeah. So I think that I'm sure he will try his best, even if he's not elected back as the Member of Parliament for the Chua Chu Kang GRC. But I think that he will still continue to do his grassroots work for the people there. I'm quite confident that he will do that. Yeah.
So, what's the PSP's long-term plan? Right. I'm personally very interested in this because Party Chairman Tan Cheng Bock has said that this is going to be his last election.
That's right.
I mean, what happens to the party after that? Can you tell us a bit more about the long-term plan, 5-year plan? What kind of strategy does the PSP have moving forward?
I think that, first and foremost, that those questions would be left to the party cadres, the party CEC, made up of the top leadership within the Progress Singapore Party. But yes, that is the situation that is now entrusted. That the responsibility is now given to the CEC to map out succession planning, talent management, and a roadmap of growth for the party. And that is not easy, it's not difficult. We see Workers' Party exhibiting bits and pieces of that. Although I think, they have their own challenges as well.
Yes.
The other smaller parties, is even more of a challenge for them.
Oh yeah.
Critical success factors. Critical success factors would be to attract new talent into the party, and you need to win seats for that. Hence, I would say that a big part of that critical success factor lies with the voters. If the voters like the manifesto and they love Dr. Tan and they want to see more of what Hazel and Man Wai has done in the last parliamentary session term, and therefore they should vote in more PSP candidates like myself for Chua Chu Kang, and then get us in. We would do more of the same, and that in itself would be able to bring us to bear, to attract more talent into the party. And therefore, that will give us the lifeline, the most essential element to succession planning, which is a very big management topic.
So you would be confident that the PSP will, not only be coming back for the next GE, but will be stronger and have grown in that time. Like, would you be confident to say PSP is here for the long haul?
Sean, yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be with them.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, in that case, I just have one last question for you before we get to the live question. So, in case you haven't asked any questions yet and you're viewing from YouTube or Facebook, please do go and drop your comments in the comment section, right? And so as for my last question, you're somewhat of a political newcomer to some extent. What's the most interesting thing that you've learned or experienced after entering politics?
Definitely one from a management perspective is a political party do not pay anybody. Nobody's paid. It's not an employment. Everybody is there to contribute, to give in his or her own capacity levels because they want to do this, not because they have to do this. Nobody's coming to work. It's not a 9 to 5 thing. So therefore, I think that it's interesting to look at each different people's motivation and their willingness to just come in and do that work for the party.
Okay, come, let's get to some questions here, some live questions. Okay, we've got one from Terry Xu, okay, who's asking this from YouTube. He says, is having to toe the party line on policies strictly something that influenced your preference for which party to join? Basically, is it the freedom or the need to toe a party line something that convinced you to join the PSP?
Well, I've as a political newbie per se, I've not joined any other party before, not the PAP, not the Workers' Party. PSP is the first party that I've joined. With respect to towing the line, no, I don't think that Manwai or Dog or Hazel would, I think that there's a level of respect for each other, that we are sensible people, we are of certain background, credibility, and therefore I think that as long as you make sense, I think it's fine. Like that,
Okay. Now, I want to take some time actually to get into this next question because it's a really long one. And it's by a viewer on Facebook by the name of PJ Thumb, right? And so he's... Hi, PJ. Okay, so I'm going to read out. It's a very long, complicated question. So,
of course it is.
Take your time to answer. You can look at me, the camera, or PJ on it. Yeah, I've got it here. Yeah. So, it says, it is not just the bottom 30%, but all Singaporean workers who are underpaid. Mostly people who live off wage labour in Singapore are struggling. The only group of Singaporeans who benefit from the status quo are the capitalists, the top 10 to 20%. In a 2010 ESC report, Tharman declared that they would raise productivity and restrict foreign labour to drive wage increases. Yet we remain dependent on exploiting cheap foreign labour, and our overall wages remain deeply unfair and lag far behind comparative economies because the PAP claims fair wages will, quote unquote, undermine our competitiveness. So, how can we achieve fair wages for all work?
Take your time. No. The answer to the question actually is quite simple. And thank you, PJ, for leading me to that particular question. Your analysis and the description of it is what a lot of my friends in the civil service, especially at the two ministries, we know about it, but it's difficult for us to talk about it too much. So we like to often use median income. The median income in Singapore right now has grown gradually. Used to be 4.8K, now it's about 5.2, 5.3K, I think so, for the median income. That's okay, that's quite all right. Yeah, but what it doesn't say is at what age do people actually achieve that particular. Are you 40 years old or are you at 26, 28 years old? You know, there are 26, 28-year-olds that make that median income. But there are also 40-year-olds that just made that median income as well. So those are the variables. And like I said, but the short answer to PJ would be the minimum wage. That regardless, if you want to lift, PJ's main concern is for the bottom 30%, yeah, okay, over there. And I think that yes, it's true. And you can't. There are two things I don't think that you can try to do. You cannot try to use productivity as a lever to lift wages, which is what Singapore has always been advocating.
Sure.
If you become more productive, from a security officer, you become a senior security officer, or you become a very senior security officer, then your salaries would then be laddered in that sense. It's good for the marketplace, for the industry, for employers. They recognize that, oh, okay, that's skill up, therefore I'll pay for more skills, yeah, and all that. However, I think that only with a universal minimum wage would that our lower income local workforce, the lower income local workforce would then be able to benefit and to keep up with inflation and to keep up with a rising cost of living, which is extremely important. Yeah, okay. And then also it's also to protect these. There is the way PJ has described his question is in a very quantitative manner, and I appreciate that very much. However, there's a very qualitative part of situation of which the lower income people are facing, and that is very demanding, very difficult employers, and they are, and to some extent you can say all employers are difficult and demanding.
Yeah.
But here we go, only with the universal minimum wage that you are able to then help to buffer, protect your,
the most vulnerable.
the most vulnerable, that's a political term, but the lower income, local resident workforce. And bear in mind, I'd like to clarify one more time that the universal minimum wage that myself and Leon, that we wrote an article and all that, is meant for the local resident workforce, not for foreign workers and all that. Yeah.
So since we have a little bit of time left,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you just one last question. I
Sure.
know you're a very busy man, right? Can you tell us a little bit maybe about the synergies, right? The different strengths that you and the rest of the PSP bring to the table, right? Yeah.
I think that the word resilience come to mind. I like it very much whenever I hear Prime Minister Lawrence Wong talks about resilience. He wants to build resilience within the country that he leads now.
Yeah.
Diversity, Sean. I bring diversity to the PSP, as well as my teammates now, my colleagues, my GRC mates, whether it's Wendy, Nala, Inche Abbas. We come from diverse background. We are of diverse background, and we are what is known as the social fabric of Singapore right now. And if the voters vote all four of us in, it is the very personification of resilience that is sung by our Prime Minister.
Wonderful. All right, thank you so much. I know
Thank
you've
you,
got a
Sean.
very, very busy schedule. Thanks so much for
Thank you.
joining us, Lawrence. And to everybody at home as well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this interview. And if you really liked it, do remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, remember to ring that bell. We're going to be doing a lot more of these interviews all the way up till election day. So we will see you very, very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in.
A lot of people still don't know how Singapore's parliament actually works. So here's a quick explainer, especially with the general election coming up. Singapore uses a first-past-the-post system. That means in each constituency, the party or team with the most votes wins, even if it's just by one vote. After the election, the party with the most elected MPs gets to form the government. To control parliament, they need a simple majority. That's at least 49 out of 97 seats. Once they have that, they choose the Prime Minister and form the cabinet. a simple majority equal more than half the seats. That's 49 seats in the new 97-seat parliament. But a two-thirds supermajority is 65 seats. Why is that important? Because certain laws, especially changes to the constitution, need at least two-thirds of MPs to agree. If one party holds 65 or more seats, they can amend the constitution without needing support from other parties. Laws start as bills, which are proposed and debated in Parliament. If a majority of MPs vote yes, the bill becomes law. But again, if it's a constitutional change, it needs at least 65 MPs to agree, not just 49. So your vote doesn't just decide who gets in, it also affects how much power one party has. Now you know the difference between 49 and 65 seats and why it matters. Understanding how government is formed and how Parliament works helps you see why every seat matters.